February 8th, 2018 Code Enforcement Board meeting. Meeting will now come to order. Before we have a roll call, I want to introduce our new secretary. Her name is June Barnes, and Amy is moved up to senior paralegal for the city. So we're in a little bit of a transition today, and we also have a new board member, Darlene Purdy, so we welcome her as well.
Thank you.
June, you have a phone number?
I do. I'll give you business.
Yeah, and we've got a card here, so.
Oh, okay.
And let's see what else is going on. We have, thank you, Mr. Jones is out today, and Mrs. Himes is out today. So I guess we could have a roll call.
Ms. Kundig?
Here.
Ms. House?
Here.
Mr. Harrington?
Here.
Ms. Purdy?
Here.
And Mr. Westerholz?
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. All right, motion to excuse Mr. Jones and Mrs. Himes. Motion, Mr. Weatherholt, second. Second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay, let's take a look at the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them? Any additions or corrections?
Move for acceptance.
All right, Mr. Harrington makes a motion to accept. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Weatherholtz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Does anyone need to disclose any ex parte communication?
Madam Chairperson,
Yes,
just we have a
sir.
new member here tonight, or this morning, excuse me. Basically, I just want to point out to everybody, this is a different kind of a board. It's a quasi-judicial board. It's not like the planning board, where you make a recommendation to the city commission. This is a quasi, you make decisions, which can be appealed to the circuit court. So again, if there's any time, two things could happen. If you get a call from somebody to discuss the case, politely refuse to discuss the case with them, bring it up at the meeting and say, I got a call from Citizen Jones. I told him that I'm not going to discuss the case with them, period. If you run across each other at Publix or at the mall or at the movie theater, you can say hi, you can talk about anything else, just don't discuss the particulars of the case. Okay. If you do, for some reason you have to, just disclose it at the meeting. I ran into Ouija at the farmer's market. We didn't discuss the case, but it doesn't make a difference. Whatever I decide today, based upon what I hear at the meeting, and you're fine.
You said that our decisions can be appealed to the court?
Right.
Can they also be appealed to the city commission?
No. For example, when we enter an order, there's 30 days for the person to file this with the circuit court to appeal the decision of the board.
In other words, a fine is not a decision?
No, that's a little different now. A fine is a obligation to the city. Once we propose a fine, the city has the right to make a decision or send it back for a lien review. That becomes the city's fine. I'm talking about an order finding for that order instituting a fine. Order non-compliance, for example. Those are appealable. Well, once they become final orders, they're appealable to the circuit court, not to the city commission. Like, for example, we decide to find somebody non-compliance and find an individual. The commission can't come around and set our decision aside. We don't have that authority to do so. We are independent. That's why I'm here. We have two attorneys. We're independent of the commission. Now, obviously, the commission can make recommendations. They can appoint people to the board. They can take people off the board. They just can't make it. They don't make our decisions. I don't know if that helped at all.
Well, it's one explanation.
I know. And, you get two attorneys. You get two different opinions.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Madam Secretary, any announcements? Just maybe the cases that are in compliance, just announce those.
We do. Let's see. Number 7? No, number 1. Oh, sorry. Number 1, case number 12-17-166 is in compliance as of January 31st, 2018. Case number 8, which is 11-17-150, which is 551 Whitehall Street, is in compliance 1/30/2018. Number 10, 1117-144, which is 508 Fremont Avenue, is in compliance 1/30/2018. Number 16, which is 11811, which is 665 Winchester Street, is in compliance 2/1/2018. There's a new case that is not marked on your agenda as in compliance, which is number 22.
Okay.
And it's 02-1821, and that's 1122 Mason Avenue, and that was in compliance 2/5/2018.
Okay.
Number 26, which is 2/18/25, it is 1213 Sunland Road, in compliance 1/29/2018. And I missed one, which is number 19, which is 1116 Madison Avenue, and it's in compliance 1/25/2018. My apologies.
Oh, I think that might be the inspector's.
Could you repeat that last one for me, please?
I think that might be.
Yeah, I have that. I don't have that one in compliance.
Tell us.
Number 19, I don't have in compliance. It's on hers, but
Okay.
I changed. I must have changed that.
Okay, is there something else? 162 Lee, the one before.
Okay.
So, number 18, CEB 011816 for 162 Lee is in compliance.
Okay.
Number
As
8.
of?
As of the day.
John, date?
125. It is 125.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 18 is in compliance.
Yes.
Number 19 is
Yes.
not. in
Correct. All right. Any other announcements? All right. Would our code officers please come forward and be sworn in?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, everyone, here's our procedure. We will be calling cases by number and for the most part in order as they are listed on the agenda. If there are attorneys present that must be in court, we will hear those cases first. There are police officers who must get back to assignments. We'll hear those cases first as well. When your case is called, please come forward and be sworn in. State your name and address for the record. If you are not the owner of the property, please state your relationship to the owner of the property. Our proceedings are recorded, so please speak into the mic. The board hears from code officers first, and then you will be given the opportunity to respond. Please direct all responses to the board. Witnesses may also testify following the same procedure. Normally, we take a break at 11 o'clock if we feel like we're going over, and if we haven't heard your case, if you'll come up to the front, anybody that's left can get in line and have their case heard first before we get to the other ones, but we may be finished pretty close to 11 today. All right. We can start with our lien review. Case number CEB 0609116 at 949 Vernon Street. Seals and Harris.
Hello, my name is Ann Hart. I'm representing Viva Investment Homes. I am in relation to the owner. I work for the property management company that manages Vernon Street.
Okay.
So, could you
Yeah.
raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're going to listen to Mr. Jackson first, and then we'll hear from you. Thank you.
Morning, Anthony Jackson, attorney for the City of Daytona Beach. Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a lien review, as stated. The interesting circumstance, this is one where this property was purchased at a tax deed sale. There were excess proceeds that came to the city. In fact, there were $9,262 of the proceeds that the city received. Once And what's it has been typical for when people do tax deed, they kind of believe that everything's gone, and it's not. So it's reasonable, at least from the city's perspective, of their explanation of not realizing that the remaining portion of the deed of the lien remained. Once they were notified, they immediately took care of the violations. The city is very pleased with their response, and the city is requesting waiver of the lien because of the large portion that the city has already received.
So you waive
Of the remaining.
$5,759.76?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to tell us anything? Is your name Ms. Hart? Yes.
Just that once we were aware of the lien violation, I did try to reach out to Mr. Alderman with everything that was taken care of. We did have an eviction during that time, so once that got taken care of, we're looking to move forward with getting the house better for the community, and
Good.
that's it.
All right, any comments from the board or questions?
You're a property manager, a realtor, or,
Property manager,
okay.
yes.
Did you handle the tax sale?
I did not know. No, that was done through Viva Investment Homes, which is the owner, and they purchased it through the courthouse.
And I'm asking this question because I don't know. When you purchase from a tax thing, do they do a title search?
No, they don't. It's through the
No.
courthouse, so it's all just an auction. So you just kind of buy it as
So
is.
we have kind of a sloppy situation from my point of view when the lien isn't properly filed by the city.
Well, the lien must have been filed because they got the money this city.
Right, we got money.
Well, how is that not picked up then?
Unique situation with tax deeds, and people who investors who tend to deal with tax deeds if they're especially not as experienced. But one of the unique situations is that a tax deed pretty much knocks out everything except municipal liens. So the municipal liens stay, and people think just because they got their tax deed, it's free and clear, but it's not free and clear. So because there were excess proceeds, the city notified of that, and we are able to obtain those proceeds from the sale, but that doesn't cover the full lien. We still have leftover if the balance of the lien, and that was the circumstance in this case. But we recognize that if we had gone to a lien review, that this is probably a substantial amount that we would have obtained, and so we believe it to be reasonable, at least the position of the city.
Any other comments? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to waive the lien. Is there such a motion? Motion, Mr. Weatherholtz. Is there a second? Okay, someone else needs to make a motion. The motion fails for lack of second. All right.
Maybe make a motion a little more specific, that the recommendation would be to waive the remainder of the lien of $5,759.76.
All right, the chair, I guess I can make another motion. Can I? Okay. Or I'll entertain another motion to waive the remainder of the lien, which is $5,759.76. Since over $9,000 has already been paid.
I'm going to make the motion again to.
All right, we have motion from Mr. Weatherholtz. Is there a second?
I can second it.
All right. Second, Ms. Purdy. All in favor say aye. So let's have a roll call, please.
Mr. Weatherholtz?
Yes.
Ms. House?
No.
Ms. Kundick?
Yes.
Ms. Purdy?
Yes.
Mr. Harrington?
No.
Yes, it's 3-2.
Motion passes 3-2. No?
No.
You actually need four.
Need four votes.
Four need to be all the same, but it's
All right,
On a lien review, you would need 5 affirmative votes. I mean, I'm sorry,
Four.
4 affirmative votes, yes.
I'm. If that's not satisfactory to 4 of us, I'd like to hear what would be satisfactory and how we can bring this to a conclusion.
I'd like to see the remainder of the lien paid.
Okay?
We have a lien that was imposed in 2009 and ignored, and I think it's time to pay it.
When was the property purchased at the tax sale? I forget. I'm sorry.
In 2015. October of 2015 is when it was purchased.
And if I may say, Madam Chair, maybe I didn't make this clear, and Mr. Harrington, maybe I didn't make this clear, but the current property owners were not the ones responsible for the violation. So, I mean, as I understand your request, I just wanted to make sure that's well understood.
Yeah,
That
and we
they weren't
also-
responsible, and at the time when they were made notified of the violations, those violations were taken care of immediately.
We also understand the lien goes with the property.
I'm not trying to debate. I was just
All
trying to
right.
inform.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. House, would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we ask that the remainder of the lien be paid in full.
Second.
We have a motion from Mrs. House and a second from Mr. Harrington. May we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Westerholtz?
No.
Ms. House?
Yes.
Ms. Kundig?
No.
Ms. Purdy?
No.
And Mr. Harrington?
Yes.
So we're back to where we started from?
I guess there's
I
one more.
want to apologize. So just please sit down. Relax. We'll get through this.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Continue it to the next meeting for the board.
Yeah, there was one more point. I don't know if it's recognized as well. This lien arose for parking on the grass, so it wasn't for building.
Okay, I know that's not funny, but
conditions or anything else. Was parking on the grass.
okay. And that was one of. I think that was one of the things. Yeah, there were other things as well. Okay. Just a little ironic. All right, I'm going to make a motion to continue this case until next month. Is there a second to that motion? Excuse me? Oh, I can't make the motion. I'll entertain a motion unless I pass.
Who's the vice chairperson?
She's not here.
She's not here.
Who's the senior member? Real.
Me.
Has a motion.
Yeah.
I will accept a motion to continue this case to the next meeting date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All
we have
those
a-
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I guess it's 6-0 in favor,
Okay.
5-0.
or 5-0 in favor.
Okay, man, we'll have 2 more people at the next meeting, so we'll break the ties.
All right, case number 1 is in compliance. Case number 2, CEB 12-17-167. 3 Oaks Inn at 331 South Palmetto Avenue. The respondent present? Good morning.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. What's
Ed Kearney, the contractor for 3 Oaks Inn.
that K-E-A?
C-A-R, anyway.
Sorry. Thank you.
And I brought handouts for everyone to view.
Okay. All right. Let us hear from Code. This is a progress report and determination of a compliance date. Okay?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we really don't have any information, and we're waiting as well to hear the report from they responded as to the progress and
Okay.
the compliance.
Good.
I've,
Mr.
distributed-
Carney.
Good morning.
Hi.
I've distributed some pictures to show we've been working diligently daily on the project. We've, of course, this was the original blueprints I shared with you last week. Since then, we've also retained a structural engineer to go through the building structural feasibility, and he found it to be in compliance. And we have a letter stating that I've shared with the building department downstairs. So, like I referred last time I was here, we're starting with the west side of the building, going to the south side of the building, the east side of the building, then the north side of the building. Really, the north side of the building we're going to have a big challenge with, but we've removed all the fascia, siding, and siding from the west side of the building. We've started the south side, and now once I have the structural engineer and the city accepts it downstairs, Mr. Urquhart, we will be attempting to put the building back together. So we won't have blue tarps in front of Palmetto Avenue, but we will start to put the CDX plywood, the Tyvek wrap, the new windows, and the new paint.
Good. Well, thank you for doing all this work to a building that really needs it. We appreciate that,
Well, it's a two-
especially in.
You're right, and it's a two-part process. Not only is it the contractor, but it's the individual who's making the investment in the
Right,
city.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, Mr. Sanders isn't here for this case. Is there someone that would like to? Okay.
Mike Fitzgerald was handling the case.
Okay.
He really said he didn't have anything to present other than he doesn't know what time, and I wanted to hear that from him as well, that he was expecting for them to bring the material here to the.
Okay. Well, we'll ask him
inform
that
him.
question.
Thanks.
All right. So, a ballpark figure. When do you think this work can be accomplished? And
Maybe September. And we have 2 people there every day with high-reach equipment. But I asked for 90 days to come back to you all with an update. At least I'll have the front of the building done, and we'll be able to show significant progress, color, and quality of workmanship.
Is this going to be a multifamily?
It's not going to change its current use,
Okay.
from what the owner tells me.
Okay. So what you'd like to do is come back in 90 days, and at that point we may be able to figure out a compliance date.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, the order only directs the west side of the building, does it not? No. It's the whole building? Well, the west side of the building will be done first. But like I said, it's a large project. It'd be easier
It is
to
a large
rebuild it.
It is a large
It'd be
project.
quicker to rebuild it than it would be.
I think I'm inclined to have progress reports. I think it's too early to set a compliance date with all the work that needs to be done. I don't know how anybody else feels. I'd really like to hear how you feel.
I mean,
But-
I don't mind coming back monthly, but
Well, I
you're not
don't know
gonna see
whether
much.
it's monthly. It could be, we could do every other month
Okay.
until we get to the point where we think we need to set a compliance date, or you can tell us when you think the work will be done.
When I first met you last month or the month before, I said it was probably 8 months, and I'm thinking 9 months now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do I have any comments from the board? All right. The chair will entertain a motion to continue progress reports bi-monthly,
So moved.
starting 4/4.
4/4? That'd be fine.
Actually, 4/4 is the cutoff date.
Right,
so
that's the
we'll
cutoff
meet.
date.
Oh, 4/12 is the meeting.
4/12 is the meeting.
I'll be here for you.
Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Weatherholt, second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion
Do you have
carries.
an end date for those bi-monthly?
No, not yet, I don't think. I think that through the end of the year we'll, but, well,
Yes. See what I'm saying?
okay. Progress report bi-monthly until September.
That's fine.
Okay. So I'll amend the motion to say until September 2018. Mr. Weatherholtz and Mrs. House,
So moved.
okay. Motion let's have a vote.
I'm sorry. If we do August, that's actually 2 every
All right, August. Okay, August. All right. All right. Motion as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mayor.
Okay.
Could I just get my pictures back?
Yeah. All right, case number 3, CEB 0118-04. Lynn Stepp at 44 North Halifax. Yeah. Oh, okay. Please come forward. We're going to jump down to case number 6 right now. Vishnu Limited, CEB 011801 at 1000 North Atlantic. Good morning.
Good morning, Michael Cicchetti, Doran Sims, on behalf of Vishnu Limited.
Okay, we'll hear from our attorney, Mr. Jackson, and our code people first, and then I'll give you a chance to talk.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Tom Klieg. Mr. Klieg reports that after getting a follow-up from the respondent, it's determined that this is going to be a long-term project. So we're asking to amend to initiate bi-monthly reports for progress and to set a compliance date after we move along a little bit. And I don't think Mr. Klieg have anything else from my conversation with him, but I tend him if you should have any questions.
Okay, I may have some questions. All right, Mr. Klieg, you notified in April of 2017.
Yes, ma'am.
What has been done since then?
Well, first of all, Officer Klieg, my credentials are on file. Originally, it was from Hurricane Matthew. I was working with the owner's wife, and she was trying to negotiate a settlement with the insurance company. I was waiting. This is when, like I said, Hurricane Matthew. She received on the contract with a contractor, installed a construction fence, put it on a trespass referral site, and obtained a little bit of cosmetic work, keeping the transients out and so forth, but boarded some windows up. But then she got the attorney on board, and then I started working with him last month when we met at the property.
So we have a fence up.
Construction fence, yeah. They have obtained, by the way, they did obtain 2 permits, one for one's expired, one's going to be expired for a re-roof, and also for the windows and doors and balcony work that's going to be done. So like I said,
the roof permit has expired?
Yes, ma'am. They didn't get it finalized yet, so it expired, and it's going to, I talked to the attorney, they're going to reopen that permit.
And what was the other permit?
For the windows and balcony work, structural work.
And they have obtained that?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the insurance settled the claim?
Well,
Okay, come up, please.
that is the crux of the dispute, is lack of payment and inadequate payment by the carrier. So, in fact, Vishnu hired me as their attorney for the insurance claim. This code enforcement process is a courtesy that I am performing for my client. In fact, I've been retained to settle or litigate the insurance dispute with the carrier. This property was significantly damaged by Hurricane Matthew. The carrier, of course, has delayed and denied payment or adequate payment to refurbish this property.
From Matthew?
From Matthew. And so I was retained in April when the insured realized that the carrier was unwilling to pay. Since the time of April to date, we have performed all of our site inspections, which are necessary, and afforded the insurance carrier an opportunity to inspect the property. Understand that when a property is damaged, as much as the city code enforcement and the city would like the property to be restored, there is the issue of preservation of evidence. And so now some time has elapsed to allow the inspection of the property by experts so that evidence is preserved for litigation. And at the same time, we're trying to preserve the property from further damage. So with the limited funds that were available, the insured did pull a roofing permit and did put on the first layer of the roof to dry in the property. And we are now going to solicit bids, and we have in fact solicited bids to replace the windows and the sliding glass doors. There are also certain other elements which aren't cited in the notice of violation that we feel as an olive branch to the city that we can address. There's some debris on the property that we feel as though will make the property more sightly. Even though those items aren't addressed in the notice of violation, we feel it's our duty to take care of that, and we'll hopefully
Thank
get
you.
us in the good graces of the city by doing that.
Mhm.
Understand that we understand there's a lot of work to be performed, but there's not the funds to pay for that work. The insurance carrier has not released those funds. And so that is truly my scope of involvement, is to either resolve the case with Chubb or to bring it before a jury. We do have certain limited funds again, and with those limited funds, we are trying to do the best that we can to strike a balance between achieving compliance, preserving the evidence for the case, and preserving the property. The construction fence was put up to keep vagrants out of the property. And
When was the fence put up?
it would have been put up during the summer, probably
Summer?
around
Okay.
August, September, I believe.
And I have
Maybe
a
even
couple
earlier.
questions for you. When were you hired by Vishnu?
It would have been approximately somewhere
April?
in that April-May time period. I don't recall exactly.
Okay. How long has this property been without tenants?
Since Hurricane Matthew.
Since Matthew?
Matthew took the roof off of this property. I mean, it inundated it, broke several of the sliding glass doors, popped out the pool. I mean, the property was very much devastated by Matthew and further damaged by Irma, and further damaged by a vagrancy issue that, as much as the property owner tries to put up a fence and plywood off entryways and doors and windows, where there's a will, there's a way. And so it's had a number of issues, mostly with the insurance carrier. And if one goes up and down the beach, I can point out a number of hotels and condominiums that I represent that are all unfortunately in the same.
One of the issues here is public safety. There's a fence around on the beach side, the whole project.
Yes, there is a fence around the property, and anytime a door or a window is compromised, we plywood it, and whenever the plywood is removed, we re-plywood it.
Is the debris and everything picked up around the area in case we?
We're working towards that. It's when Mr. Clegg and I met at the property, we went over the notice of violation is failure to maintain roof, windows, and balconies, and I admittedly told Mr. Clegg, well, I guess we can pick up some palm fronds too, and
Whatever the
and
debris
take-
laying around, and that's just to keep it in
safe.
place. to keep it
Agreed.
safe.
We're completely aware of what's going on in this area. It's a wonderful revitalization of the core area of Beachside, and once we have the insurance proceeds to restore the property to its pre-loss condition, we hope that we can actually make it even better than it was and be a part of that revitalization. But for today, we can only do what we can with the limited funds that we have.
Now, you say you've solicited bids for this work. How long do you anticipate this work would take?
Long time.
Depends which scope of work, right?
Do we have a contractor hired yet to do this work?
GC Contractor Services. On the roof is R&R. GC Contractor Services is providing the bids for the windows and the balconies. And again, the limitation there, I don't want to make a misrepresentation to the board, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. The limitation is funds. If you take that variable out, if the insurance company paid on this claim properly, we wouldn't be here today. Work would be underway. So yes, we are soliciting bids, and it's a rob Peter to pay Paul, figure out what we can do with the funds that we have obtained to get the property in compliance. So the logical part to me is when you do a roof, you can put the first layer of the roof down as a dry-in, and then you can build upon that first layer. So in a sense, while there's
When
been-
was that done?
That's been done for some time now. It was probably back in September.
Before the last hurricane, Irma?
Yes. Yeah, before.
Okay. Okay.
So we moved quickly to relatively quickly to dry in the roof. With the funds, again, with the funds that
That's
we have.
almost a year since the last hurricane. That's not quickly.
A roof on a hotel is not inexpensive, and when
I
a
agree.
insurance carrier doesn't pay,
That's right.
I agree.
It's a $500,000
Yeah.
roof, and if you don't have the money and you don't have the income
Right.
stream, I understand that it is an amount of time, but you have to consider those factors. And unfortunately, I am in a business where I used to do a fair amount of this work, and I used to do a fair amount of other work, but since Hurricane Matthew hit, the only thing I have done is insurance claims. And not only Hurricane Matthew claims, but
I know,
Hurricane
I
Irma
know.
claims. There's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and I don't care if it's a $5,000 roof on a mobile home or a $500,000 roof on a hotel. It's all relative, and if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. And so from my perspective, the fact that they drive the roof in, if it's on the citation, fine. But the roof is dried in, and you can't see the roof from the street level. From my perspective, the wisest thing to do is to get those funds and use them for the balconies, use them for the windows, because you can see those from the street level. Start using the funds, not necessarily to finish the roof, because there's no appreciable difference by finishing the roof. Let's do the doors and the windows and the balconies. You can see that from the street level.
Okay.
We'll do what we can to get the property. We understand the point. The point is that
Yeah.
the property needs to look good from the ground level, right?
It
When
needs
somebody's
to
sitting
at
on the
least
Hard
look
Rock
like
Pool
somebody's
deck, this property needs to look nice. I get that.
cares for it.
And so, well, and of course they care for it. I wouldn't be here today otherwise.
I have another question. This is probably for staff. The only things we're considering here is failure to maintain roof, windows, and balconies. And I look at those pictures, and I see a whole lot more besides roof, windows, and balconies, including the pool. So does that mean that once these things are in compliance, that we have nowhere to go with that?
No, I still, like I said, my cases come up before you. It's because of usually some sort of either litigation or non-compliance. I'm getting compliance from the
Okay.
attorney, so therefore that's why I didn't recite him. But I did tell him, he asked the same question. I said, well, listen, if you want, I can write you up today and give you 10 days to get this thing done. So I'm working with them and the
Okay.
owners, so that's why it's not
Okay.
written up.
Any comments, other comments from the board, except me? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to order a monthly progress report beginning next month.
Or is it bi-monthly or monthly?
No, I'd like to see monthly. That's what I would like. To see how things are progressing with
And as part of
Chubb,
that,
to see how things are progressing with cleanup, to see that there is an honest effort being made to
well, the
get this
effort,
done.
and I will say,
Okay.
the effort is tremendously honest.
It may be that
nobody
next month we can amend that and say bi-monthly if we see progress or we hear about progress. But if it just remains the same and remains the same, I would like to see a monthly progress report. How does everybody else feel about that?
I think that's
I
adequate.
agree.
Okay. So the motion that I have the chair will entertain a motion to order a monthly progress report beginning next month and continuing until we set a compliance date. Is that specific
One
enough?
of the things that,
Until compliance is achieved.
this is a long process.
Yes.
When when you're dealing with an insurance company and a project of this magnitude, just looking at the pool area and everything that's going to be substantial, and it's going to take a long time to do it. What about if we have next month, have a monthly report to see, but I think every month it's going to be a long time. So possibly like we did with the other one, every other month, to determine when there's some sort of settlement, because nothing's going to be done until the settlement's.
How close are we to settlement?
And I will say, it would be my preference bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Not only because of this property, but two weeks ago I was in front of Mr. Sino in the county on another case. And so with respect to the board, progress reports are wonderful, and I understand holding feet to the fire. I do. And I've probably spent more time behind the dais representing municipalities than I have on this side of the dais. I understand that well. But if I'm providing progress reports, I'm not out there fighting the fight. And so the message from this board was crystal clear before I even stepped foot in City Hall. I understand you want progress, and I understand why you want progress, okay? So if I have to come every month for a progress report and spend half a morning or half a day, I'm not out there doing what I need to do for this property and all the other properties. And I say that with I'm only one person, and I am literally the only insurance litigator in Volusia County. I'm literally the only one that represents insurance. So I have another hearing in front of South Daytona. After this hearing, I have currently 4 code cases throughout the county similar to this one. If I'm doing these hearings every month, there's just no time. And then if there's another code case and another code case, I understand the import, but at the same time, I'd rather be out there trying to resolve these cases. I should have a status report from Chubb whether this case was settled. I gave them a time certain, and I said, we're either going to resolve this case or it's going to go to litigation. Of course, our hope is to compromise it, and I should know in 2 weeks. And so if we do not settle the case in the next 2 weeks, we'll file suit. And at that point, the litigation will take 1.5 years. So, but at the same time, we do have limited funds that we can make the property look better. This won't be a Treasure Island situation that the Shores had to deal with.
Madam Chair, just for the sake of council, I'm sure you would want him here at least next month to give you, verbal on what's happening. But the staff doesn't have a problem with at least a periodic him sending something via email and just an update in that regard, especially if there's very limited things that have occurred, just so that you're updated and know that it's happening, and that our staff is out ensuring that he's keeping the property up.
Okay, I would be amenable to having just an update like that.
And
Next
what's the March code date?
February, yeah. So if you could email into the code department, is that what he would do?
Yes, again, I presume you would want him next month, but I don't know that. But anytime beyond that, that's.
And that's fine, because next month my report is going to be one of 2 things: good news, we settled.
Right, exactly.
Or good news, we filed a lawsuit.
Right.
It's going to be one or the other.
Right.
Hopefully, it's we compromised and we'll be able to get this property into compliance. So.
Okay.
But we are at the mercy of an insurance company.
I get it. So I said I would entertain a motion to order a progress report for next month. And that's it for the motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mrs. House. Do we have a second? All right, someone wants to make a motion? Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we have a progress report next month And after the determination of what we hear on that report, then we can settle whether it be monthly or bi-monthly.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, can we put that,
Well, you'd already be here next month to make that
right,
determination.
yeah, we'd already be here,
It's kind
so,
of the same
Okay.
motion.
yeah, it's the same motion.
I so move.
Oh, Mrs. House made,
I'll second it.
second, all right. Mr. Weatherholt, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I think we're on case number 3.
Right.
3?
Lynn Still.
Lynn Step, CEB 0118-04. Respondent present, wasn't present last time. Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Jerry Sanders. Mr. Sanders is no longer with the department, but we did determine that we had some due process issues with this case, and it's a situation where we need to start this case over. So we're asking the staff if you would, we're asking the board if you would dismiss this so that we can reinitiate the case, because it does have due process issues that will
What are the
affect
due
future.
process issues?
Apparently, notice was of the initial notice. The first notification was not sent correctly or received by the respondent. I'm sorry. Okay, and we didn't do the
So you
alternative
want to dismiss
supposedly.
without prejudice?
Yes.
Okay. Need a motion.
Okay, but there was an issue of a pool being secured.
We have an inspector that's working the case and will be diligently pushing to get these things accomplished. But at this time,
It was supposed to be secured in 10 days or have the city do it. Was that part of the non-notification, the issues?
well, that would have been an after the fact from the initial failure to properly notify.
Would the city take action regardless?
I think that's what it said, that we would ask the city to secure the pool if it was not secured within 10 days.
I'm sure the city will look at all of its options and abilities to, as we typically do.
Well,
I
it
think-
seems like a life safety issue to me, if, that pool.
Right,
when
and
you look
I don't
at it.
disagree. You may recall, Ms. Kundig, we've had these kind of conversations before in terms of the limit of the board. And,
Right, absolutely.
The city recognizes the board's desire for this to happen
Right.
as soon as possible, and they'll take the actions that they have
Right.
the authority to take. But recognizing the urgency that the board is recognizing as well.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion. Do we need to add anything back in about the pool or no?
Dismiss the action without prejudice.
Can I ask if this is occupied, this property?
Once we dismiss, we lose jurisdiction.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, I don't know whether we know the property's occupied.
I guess the issue of maintaining, and I'm sure Mr. Sino can explain it a little better, but maintaining the action with the due process issue makes everything else that happened virtually invalid.
Food and
So
Brothers Trade.
we need to.
We dismiss without prejudice. We can refile it.
Okay.
So can we?
Chair will entertain a motion to dismiss case number CEB 0118-04 without prejudice. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
All right, motion, Mr. Harrington, second, Mrs. House. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed.
So can we expect to see a refiling of this relatively soon, like maybe for the next board meeting?
The
Whoever's going to be the officer.
thank you. The current inspector, Steve Alderman, and so Mr. Alderman's inspecting it. I'm sure he shouldn't be speaking on it at this point until we refile it and start a new action. I
We
believe.
can't tell no when to file it.
I was asking.
We would like it. We would like it if we file as soon as possible.
And I would expect he'll file it as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
get order to do it.
Unless those actions are remedied beforehand, but I expect he'll file it as soon as possible.
I mean, if it was serious enough to file it, and then we had to drop it, it's serious enough to refile it.
And just for part of the answer, there is a case reopened. That's
Okay.
the inspector just informed.
Okay, good. All right, so the case is reopened already. Okay, good. All right, let's move on to case number 4, CEB 01-18-06, Gilbert Mayara at 127 North Hollywood. Mr. Mayara present? Wasn't present last time.
Madam Chair, members of the board, as Madam Chair, members of the board, this case, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Jerry Sanders. This case, the property was actually sold December 22nd, prior to our last meeting, and so the staff is requesting that this be dismissed. We're working with this new owner to ensure compliance, but the property was not. We had an incorrect respondent that was noticed and notified for the last proceeding. Mr. Sanders is no longer with the division.
Okay, I get that. But Mr. Mayara no longer owns this property.
That's correct, and he didn't own it when we had our meeting in January.
So we're going to dismiss this
Yes.
without prejudice?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Chair will entertain a motion to dismiss case number CEB 01-18-06 without prejudice. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Harrington. All in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Case number 5, CEB 11-15-58, Daytona Beach Club Condo Association. Yay. Finally.
Good morning, Bill Turcott, AEP Restoration Group. Just want to let you all know that we're...
Wait, hold it. Bill Turcott. Raise your right hand.
Are y'all going to be testifying as well? No, just in case. Go ahead.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
Thank you.
All right, we'll hear from Mr. Klieg first, or Mr. Jackson, or both.
In this circumstance, Mrs. Clegg is fine.
Okay.
I was here. They're going to give you, I guess, a date. It's going to be in compliance here very shortly, so
Okay.
I didn't want them to step on their parades.
Okay. Come on up.
Okay, so we had a slight delay with the cold weather
Yeah.
earlier in the month. We're finishing the painting by the end of the week. We'll be completely demobilizing next week. All of the structural repairs are completed, so we'll be all cleaned up and out of there early next week.
Wonderful. This is the way things are supposed to work. I like this. Thank you very much. I know it took a long time. It was worth all the time it took, as far as I'm concerned, to bring this building just back up to snuff.
I want to thank you three for showing up and your diligence and taking care of this. And this shows that the way that it's supposed to work.
Right.
You're a prime example. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to ask one thing, I don't know if it was clear what Mr. Clegg was saying there, but he hadn't been able to confirm since they said it'll be another week. So we'll need to amend to the next cutoff. Just to
we'll
confirm
amend.
compliance and put a affidavit of compliance in the file.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of non-compliance and allow respondent until February 28th to come into compliance. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Weatherholt, second, Mr. Harrington. All in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed, motion carries. Thank you. No, not if you're in compliance. Thank you. Okay. All right, we did case number 6, kind of. Case number 7, CEB 01-18-02, Donald M. Genevieve and Dwayne Waltrip. Last time they were not, the respondents were not here. Is the respondent here now? Okay.
Your name?
Dwayne Darrell Waltrip.
Okay.
And could you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to hear from our code officer and our code attorney, and then we'll let you have your say. Okay, so you can just sit down. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Tom Klieg. Mr. Klieg reports that the property remains in non-compliance for outside storage. Apparently the tenant is the one who's kind of created this. The owner is elected but not to take action because he has been reported that he needs to rent money. But he's removed a lot, but there's still just not enough done with all the time he had to complete. And so the inspector is requesting a $250 fine to a maximum of $15,000. And I turn to Mr. Klieg if you have any further factual questions.
Okay. Mr. Klieg, what's been done? These pictures are from today or yesterday?
No, that was from last week.
Okay.
I got about 50% of the backyard was done. There was a gentleman, you'll see in the picture here, that the gate was open, and he let me take a picture from outside the gate. He said that he's in the process of removing more of the trash. That right there. And it's still pretty much of a mess, but it's a major improvement from what it used to be. That whole backyard was like a scrapper's yard. It was, and that was the first time I seen it, where there was holes in the fence. We looked, and Officer Jesmer was there too.
Okay. Officer Jesmer, you were going to tag those vehicles?
All those vehicles are gone, ma'am.
All those vehicles are gone?
The RV, the blue Mustang, and there were 2 motorcycles.
Okay.
They were all,
Thank you.
as you've seen that picture, they're gone.
Good.
Did we remove them or did the owner?
I marked them, and then the tenant, they did, right on the last day, but they did take care of it.
Now, what I'd like to do advise you that the owner did finally, this is the first time he's been in here and for appearance. But
Yes, it is.
There was a habit of not returning my phone calls sometimes, and I guess the neighbors were calling him too, and there was no response. But I guess I understand his position. He was from Tampa, but it was a rental property.
So you're not suggesting that because he lives someplace else?
No,
that,
ma'am. No,
okay,
I'm just saying
good.
that you'll hear from testimony from the neighbors that
Okay.
there was no response from the
Right.
owner, and I
Okay.
understand that he was
Okay.
an absentee
Okay.
owner. But.
All right. I get that. All right. Okay, Mr. Waltrip, what would you like to tell us?
If I may, I'm not sure which order you want, but there are also our neighbors that want.
Yes, I know. I see them. I will call them up after Mr. Waltrip
Well, I'd
speaks.
like to thank the board for allowing me a month to get here. And by the way, it is a journey, and I don't want to underappreciate the seriousness of the situation. I left St. Pete at 5:30 this morning, and then I got to drive home. But I've got a very mischievous tenant. It's been there a long time. I felt a little bad for him because he's lost most of his right foot. I started to evict him on the code enforcement in the beginning of the year. I've got the eviction papers. He fought it in court, presenting the medical problem, and he presented the money. So I had said that he had to solve the code enforcement problem with Officer Kling. And Officer Kling, in the conversation, said he talked to him, and it was my misunderstanding and my fault, and I apologize. I assumed he was going to do it, and he didn't do anything. That was back in April of last year. So I started a procedure when I got the final paper that it wasn't done in December. In September, I allowed that one to expire. Right now, I've got a complete eviction thing. I've been waiting for the judge. He's done the same thing. The eviction was started on the 31st of December. I have all the paperwork here showing the summons from the sheriff and whatnot to get him out. I have also, at this time, replaced the fence in the backyard. I spent $1,300. I don't want to go on the property so I can get the gentleman removed. The problem is he's allowed his brother to move in with him, which is, I've never seen anybody like it. I mean, he goes by.
Who was the, Mr. Clegg, who was the person that was in the picture?
I didn't get his name, but he said that the owner hired him to remove the scrap. So I didn't know if it was the tenant he was talking about, but
Okay.
I didn't get his name. But
Okay, Mr. Waltrip, who was that person in the picture?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't hire him. So he must have, when he said the owner, he probably thought he was doing the work for the fellow in the house, the one that moved the cars. His name's Glenn Stewart. I didn't hire that gentleman. The only person I've hired to do anything was to do the back fence. So when he told Officer Kling that the owner hired him, I'm sure that it must have been him. But the other thing I want to do, I want to thank you for letting me coming again. And if there's any neighbors, I truly apologize. I'm sorry for this situation. It is going to be corrected. But I'd like to take just a minute why this thing's happened. In 2015, I went through 5 different neurologists trying to find out a problem with my physical situation. I finally, after going to the University of South Florida, found out that I had a brain tumor. I have had $485,000 spent by Florida Blue in my behalf last year. I've been knocked out 5 times. I've lost all the feeling from the right side of my face. I have no taste on my tongue. I've almost lost my eye. I've had tubes put in my ear. And after 6 more months, if it don't come back, I have to go for other operations to lift my mouth back up so I can talk normal. So it's been the most devastating thing that anybody can imagine. And I've allowed a little bit of believing what he had to say. Officer Kling's been great with me every time I talk to him, which has not been enough. The gentleman that does the monthly and yearly home inspections went in the house, said there was no problem. I needed to get smoke detectors. I discounted the rent $50 for the tenant to put it in. He said he did, but he would never let him even back in the house to look to see that they were done. But as I said, I'm floored that the judge has not made a ruling on giving me writ of possession, which I'm going over there after that.
Well, if he paid, never mind.
No,
That's not in my purview.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That was on the last time when I let him off that eviction. That was back in September. No matter what happens this time, he's going. And so what I'm asking the board to do, if they could, because I take this matter seriously and there'll be no issues, if they could give me, if I had possession of the property, 30 days. But, 30 days would be great. If you want to come back and hear Officer Kling's proof that everything's done, it's not only going to be done to your standards, but it's going to be done to a much higher standard. I'm working with the insurance company to put because of the hurricane, a whole new roof on the house also, which doesn't really need it, but it's going to make the appearance nice.
No, it's not part of this either.
But I just had a really, really, really unusually tough time, and like I said, I heard a neighbor.
When did your medical issues begin?
The very end. My first MRI was in 2015 in December.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I'm sorry for you.
Yeah. There's nothing in life matters when this happens to you. Can't imagine even what it does to your mind. Made me really appreciate that PST that the armed forces go through when they come home. They start getting anxiety.
Okay. All right.
Would you like to see the eviction papers I've got going on?
What I'd like to know is when have they scheduled a hearing?
Well, the judge hasn't even said that there's going to be a hearing this time, which is really kind of funny. This is when I registered. It was on the 20. The papers were served on 1/25/2018.
Mm-hmm.
There's the date on there. I've got the whole package here, but it's boring. But that's the actual serving of the 5-day notice on that date down here. Shows it down here. And another thing that's happened, he should have been gone. They no longer accept postage at the Port Orange location for the clerk of the court. They don't put down the website. So I sent it, and it took 10 days to go back to DeLand to get hand delivered. The only way you can send it now is FedEx, so that slowed it down. The sheriff didn't get the notice after they had put it in the computer for 5 more days. I called them, and they said, we're so understaffed right now, we didn't sign off on it. So he should have already been out of the house, and I would have been working on it. But so anyway, the 6th day, he put a letter, did not put any money this time. So he's going, I'm sure. He owes me $3,100. So,
But there's no, should there be like a final date for a writ of possession or something?
Yeah, what he's showing, and I see Ms. Hampton, Amy trying to look it up, but what he's showing is the summons.
this is the 5-day notice that he has to rebuttal.
If there's no date set, he can ask the court for a date. So that's not an issue. We know he's filed a lawsuit. And this is irrelevant. He's filed the action.
Okay.
Question is whether or not we want to give him more time to get the guy out of there or not.
All right, well, would you just take a seat, please, for a minute, and I'm going to ask one of the neighbors to come up, if you have anything you'd like to add.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name?
State your name and address for the record and be sworn in.
My name is Russell Clonch. I live at 275 Columbus Avenue, Daytona Beach.
And your name?
My name is Gary Sutton, and I live at 261 Seaview Avenue, right next door to the situation.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, we've heard from everybody, so it's your turn.
Well, Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to address the board on this issue, and I am, condolences goes out to Mr. Waltrip and all his ailments. He's purchased the house in 06, and it's been 10 years. It'll be 12 coming up in September. They had a camper parked there for every one of those years. As you see in the pictures, that is not a house that's got messed up in 2 years. This took years to get it into that position. I have pictures of what it looks like today. He has made an attempt, but it's not enough. The dogs, they have a pit bull which attacked the inspector here and is still able to get out. It's not confined. They have a pool in the backyard that I've witnessed women taking baths in it. I've witnessed the tenant washing his clothes.
Is that
in
the
it.
pool?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. I've seen the tenant wash his clothes in it. Wash his clothes in that pool. It's a Zika condominium.
Okay. Okay.
And there's also been 3 pages of code enforcement complaints against Mr. Waltrip dating back several years. And it all goes to the same thing. Overgrown grass, bad fence, dogs, drunk, trash. And it just never has changed in every since.
Did those cases come before the board and were
I'm not really
adjudicated?
sure.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Okay. You don't need to know that. I wonder if there have been any other cases on this house. But we consider just this case today.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Sutton, what would you like to say?
Just to back up what Rusty said here, this has been 10 years of I've been living right next to a dump. There was dope dealing going on out of the garage apartment. I called Mr. Waltrip and told him. He didn't believe me. I said, I'm only 50 feet away. I can see with 2 eyes. He said, well, if the cops start investigating somebody, I'll get them out of there. The cops did start investigating them. He said, well, if the cops arrest somebody, then I'll get them out of there. He didn't do anything about this situation. So the cops said there's going to be a lien on your property if we arrest him and you haven't solved the problem. Then one guy got out, apparently the guy that was doing the dealing. The same guy, the brother, who's back again at the same residence. Okay? 10 years of this stuff. It just doesn't stop. Okay. This is a slumlord situation is what it is. And, it's not any one medical thing. It's been going on forever. He wouldn't even come and look at it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. To me, the issue is not about... Go ahead, Mr. Harrington.
I would just like to say something. I'm really uncomfortable with individuals coming before this board and accusing people that live in a thing of criminal acts and they don't bring in, if there's no evidence of it, there's no criminal acts, and I don't want to hear that given to us as evidence. That is not fair to the owner of the property or to the people involved. And I wish this would stop. You're not the only ones that do this. It's not our purvey to deal with criminal acts. You have a criminal act, call the police. Get the police to take action. If they take no action, then you can hardly accuse people of being this, that, or the other thing. And we've had several cases, and it goes on, and I wish it would stop because it's not relevant to the case. We're dealing with outside storage.
That is. Now, that's exactly what I was going to say. This case is not about the tenant. It's about cleaning up the property. What he does with the tenant is really out of what we can do. What he needs, in my opinion, what needs to be done is his property needs to be cleaned up. And there's no reason that I don't think that we need a whole lot more time to do it. So with that, the chair will entertain a motion to impose a fine of $250 per day against the respondent effective today, February 8th, and continue until compliance is achieved or reaches the maximum of $15,000. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Harrington. Second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
You know, tell them as soon as he comes into compliance,
When you come into compliance, so you can come up, but we're not going to hear any more testimony, but when you come into compliance, please call Mr. Klieg and he will come out. And the fine will stop when he finds you.
I didn't have any more statement. I had a question. May I ask a question?
You can talk to Mr. Klieg about it.
Yeah.
Just ask Mr. Klieg. He was the one, we can't answer questions, but he can tell you exactly what you need to do to come into compliance. Okay, thank you. Case number 9, CEB 11-17-142, Nell 4 LLC. No respondents. The brother was here last time, and Mr. Spivey was here. Oh, okay. Come on up after everyone leaves. State your name and address for the record.
Ben Spivey, I live at 10537 down Lakeview Circle in Windermere, Florida.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jackson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Jerome McCoy. Mr. McCoy reports that this property, the owner has initiated eviction. There's an open eviction scheduled for hearing on March 8th, 2018. We would ask that we amend to the April cutoff. We would also request that once the property is vacant, that it not be rented until it's brought into compliance.
Okay. And inspected, right? Is that what that means?
Yes, until there's an affidavit of compliance put into the file.
All right. What would you like to tell us, Mr. Spivey?
We've actually filed 2 evictions on this person. Like you've heard from the prior person, the only reason you're evicting them is for failure to pay rent or other things. They can. We are represented by the Morey Law Firm on this. He took that first eviction and basically won. We had a settlement agreement out of it, and he failed to pay rent short of $6. We immediately tried to file again that he broke the settlement agreement. The judge ruled that $6 is reasonable to have accidentally missed $6 of payment. So we dropped that case completely, and the settlement agreement. We refiled a new case again by the Morey Law Firm, and that is our case is going to be heard by the judge on the 8th day of March. At 9:30 a.m. My only concern is that I want to on the record say the lease end date is 6/30/2018. We've already notified that we're not renewing. We have a feeling he may win this one as well, as far as he's still paying into the court registry the payments. You'll see by the photos the impact to the community is mitigated. We're able to put in the new steps, do all the wood rot that was around, and remediate the property from the outside. I verified that yesterday when I came to visit. It is a dangerous property to approach, as you heard a pit bull mentioned earlier. The person that represented us last time in this case was attacked by a pit bull running outside the door, and that's why I now handle all the cases myself. That was also filed with the court, so this is not just hearsay. That evidence was submitted to the court that's handling the eviction as well. He's not supposed to have any animals on the property. I'm sure Jerome can, Mr. McCoy can testify that he's heard dogs barking in there. That's not on the lease. I also want to say that we are first notified of this code issue on 6/2/2017. We have an invoice for pest control on 5/31/2017. This was initiated by the prior tenant that we were evicting. That's when Jerome McCoy came to inspect it. But we had already acted on some of the issues with the home prior to even being notified that there was a new case, prior to the current tenant moving in there. And the current tenant was helpful at the beginning, I would say, and then got some dogs and was not helpful whatsoever. You can research his own criminal history if you would like. We'll leave that for you to decide on that. Okay, so that's I'm just concerned. I'll give an update, but I am concerned that March 8th, I do agree.
And he is paying into the registry.
That he's currently in thousands of dollars. So he knows that if you don't pay in the registry, that's a summary judgment. So, but the worst case scenario is 6:30. But if you do look at the outside pictures, the mitigating to the community, it is cleaned up on the outside, and I think that he could testify that almost everything on the outside has been done, but we are not even approaching the property now that the dog has rushed an employee of ours. It's unsafe at that point, but thank you.
And anything, Mr. McCoy, do you have anything you'd like to add? No.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ron McCoy, Code Inspector. My credentials on file. I really don't have anything to say about it. I just can't get inside.
Right.
There are dogs there. The outside, all of the work, it's been basically taken care of. But like I said, getting inside, a lot of the violations, they remain. The flooring, some of the windows, and electrical that needs to be addressed.
Okay. All right. Mr. Spivey? I wanted to ask you one. Have you obtained the services of a lawyer just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we're represented by the Morey Law Firm.
You are. I
John
thought I heard
Morey's-
you say that.
Yes,
I just
yes,
wanted
ma'am.
to make
So John
sure.
Morey with the Morey Law Firm out of Orlando
Okay.
does represent us in all our evictions in Volusia County.
Okay.
And the courts are very backed up, and writ of possessions are very backed up, and we have some now. They take over 3 weeks from the
Okay.
final order.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Thank you. That's all I have. Any other questions for anybody? The chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of non-compliance and allow respondent until April 4th. Is that, that would be for the April meeting. Allow respondent until April 4th to come into compliance and be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. And that if this
The permits remain vacant.
and the property is to remain vacant until all violations are taken care of. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Harrington motion, Mr. Weatherholt second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, 10. 11. CEB 11-17-158 AF 126 South Oleander Residential Trust at 126 South Oleander. Mr. Cloteau was here last time. Okay, not here. Okay. All right, Mr. Jackson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. It was continued from the January 11th meeting. The staff is, the inspector is Mark Jones. The staff is requesting that we add a new owner That's, so we did that last month?
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Stonegate
Oh, okay.
Properties. I'm sorry, I just didn't read the whole thing.
Okay, I see. I wrote add new owner and we need to renotice, but what happened is that we did add the new owner last month. However, the notification, we don't have a return on that, so.
Next cutoff.
Okay. So you want to amend to next cutoff?
Yes.
Okay. We got to get things done right, or we won't get to hear the cases. So, without the chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of noncompliance and allow respondent until February 28th to come into compliance and be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of fine of up to $1,000 per day until compliance is achieved. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House. Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Weatherholtz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Case number 12, CEB 11-17-160. Rosetta Henderson. Okay. Nobody here.
Yes.
Yes, someone is here. Were you here last time, ma'am? I think I remember. Yeah, okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Rosetta Henderson, address 6309 Regiment Drive, Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay. Be sworn in, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to hear from Mr. Jackson and from Mr. Jones, and then I'll let you speak. And Mr. Jackson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Mark Jones. Mr. Jones reports that the owner has taken action. She's cleaned up the site. She's removed the junk vehicles. She's also applied for permits. She's also applied for the rental license, paid the fee for the rental license, the business tax receipt, and just waiting for those things to be accomplished. And so we're asking to amend to the next cutoff.
Okay.
I turn to Mr. Jones if you have any factual questions. But I believe that's the whole story.
Good. All right, would you like to say anything? Mrs. Henderson, it seems like things are moving along, and you're doing a good job, so you don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
So I am granted the extension?
Well, we're going to, I will probably accept a motion to give you some more time since you're working on it so hard. Okay? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of noncompliance and allow respondent until February 28th to come into compliance and be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Harrington.
Second.
Second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. So you have the rest of the month to get this into shape. It is short.
There's a family friend that lives in the house, and I'm in the process of asking them to move, and I have to give them 30 days, even though I can continue to do all the things that are on here for me to do. It's been a back and forth about that, and I just finally need to have him to vacate the house. So
Okay,
that I
well,
can
we've
prepare.
made a motion and we've ruled, next time, it'll come back next month for a fine if we think that you need more time next month. or something has changed in some way,
Okay,
we'll make another decision then.
all right.
Okay, thank you. Case number 13, CEB 0118-08, Khalil Land. Respondent present. Mr. Blake was here last time. He was the majority owner, not here this time. Yes? Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, as you, this is before you for progress report, as you indicated, Madam Chair, and as it's noted on the agenda, this is set for compliance at the for the March compliance date, which is the February 28th. Mr. Jones is the inspector, Mark Jones, and he indicates that it seems to be progressing. He does have some information that he could present.
Okay.
To the board as to the status.
All right, that would be good. Mr. Jones, this was due for a progress report. What can you tell us?
Yes, I have been in communication with the owner. I'm not quite sure why he's not here today. He has made progress. We had some vehicles behind a fence that have been towed. These pictures are from yesterday. They still have a ways to go. But we did give him to the end of before February 28th's cutoff. So I will be in communication with him and make sure we get this taken care of.
Thank you. All right, so we don't need to do anything with that one. We'll go to CEB 01-18-09, Imperial Land Trust. Anyone here, respondent here? Well, they weren't here the last time. Mr. Jackson and Mr. Jones.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is Mark Jones. Mr. Jones reports that the respondent has filed eviction. I'm showing I'm showing a 5-day summons complaint dated somewhere. January 11th, 2018, indicating served on January 16, 2018. Its current status as to hearing, I think Ms. Hampton's searching for that now. I don't see that right here.
Final order and judgment of possession was entered January 31st.
Okay, so received final on the judgment of possession on January 31st. So we're asking to amend to the next cutoff so that they can bring this property into compliance.
Okay, so the writ of possession was issued, and then, what is it, 24 hours after that? Or what? What? Writ of possession was served on the 31st.
We had a final default judgment of possession, which is interesting.
Yeah.
From Judge Fields. This is date and time ordered and adjudged that a final default judgment be entered in favor of the plaintiff and for possession of the following premises. So
Either is it just happened a few days ago.
That's
that's not truly a writ of possession. Yeah, it's not truly a writ of possession.
Right.
It's really a final judgment just with a
yeah, it's a final judgment. Okay. So we need a little more time. That's what I was trying to figure out. So,
well, what they need is entry and inspection. So, and then
next
repairs.
cutoff, right?
So next cutoff.
A request for the writ was put into the court February 8th.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's today.
So it'll be close.
Okay.
I think there's a bit behind on
Yeah, well, All right.
represented to us that they're.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of noncompliance and allow respondent until the next cutoff, February 28th, to come into compliance and be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day until compliance is achieved. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House, second, Mr. Harrington. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Yeah. Case number 15, CEB 01-18-10. Nell 2 at 530 Washington. Mr. Spivey? Okay, yeah.
He's already been sworn.
Right, that's correct. You were previously sworn in, so we'll get to you in a minute. This is just a different case, different house. Okay. All right, Mr. Jackson.
Yes. Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector, Mark Jones, Mr. Jones' report said he didn't really get any update or any new information about the case until yesterday. The property remains in non-compliance. In fact, it was re-rented within the last few weeks. The staff is requesting that a fine of $250 a day be imposed to a maximum of $15,000. And I tender Mr. Jones if you have any factual questions.
Okay.
This first notified 11/3 of a rental license.
Yes, it started off as a complaint from a tenant, and there was no rental license on file for either property, for either address.
Okay. So they have re-rented?
They have re-rented the front section, or at least it was re-rented. And then the side section where you see that car, that's a second unit.
Okay.
They have one, or had one electric meter and one water meter.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. Spivey.
Well, first I want to apologize that no one was here on January 11th. We
Yeah,
don't wanna
that's
waste
what I thought. Okay.
anyone's time. You heard about the pit bull story a second ago. This has now been transitioned to me taking all code enforcement violation issues personally. So that's what I'm doing that. So I received a letter on January 16th, notice informing that we did not show up for this hearing, and I drove straight here to City Hall. I actually ran into Jerome McCoy, shook his hand out there when I was trying to meet with people. I'd like to start by describing this property. It was purchased on January 23rd, 2017. It has 4 entrance and exit doors. It has 2 kitchens, 2 stoves, 2 full-size fridges, 2 living rooms, 4 bedrooms, 4 toilets, all in working order, 3 bathrooms. There's no way to pass from one unit to the next when you're inside. I'm not a contractor. It does have 1 electric meter and 1 water meter. So I will reference 746 Alabama Street, purchased by the same company in Daytona Beach, Florida. It is registered as a duplex with 1 water meter. We paid for a new water meter to be added. It had 2 meters, electric meters, 1 water meter. So the 1 water meter didn't raise alarms that this was not a duplex. I described the property, what we bought from a wholesaler at the time. We did not know it was not able to be rented to 2 parties, because that's what was presented to us when we purchased it. It had a bad roof at the time. We had a licensed contractor put in a new roof. After that roof failed, this is all within the past year and a half, we had another contractor go out there, pull another permit, and fix that roof. So we've spent over $7,000 on a new roof. The outside exterior, as you can tell, was all freshly painted. So everything on the outside, you could tell, was done pretty nicely. But the inside was already complete. So we purchased a property, yes, zoned as SFR, that I know now. I didn't even know what that was, just 3 letters. And so I do apologize for that. We I want to go now to the January 16th when I met Jerome outside, although that's Mark Jones. Mark Jones has worked with Eric Spivey before on another property. They work real well together. Eric is no longer handling these. I'm doing them, again, for the safety of my family, and if anyone's going to get bit by a dog, it will be me. January 16th.
What would you say? What did you just say?
Well, again, they have a pretty tough job. A lot of people, these are a lot of landlord-tenant issues, and a lot of people have pit bulls, and it's pretty difficult getting on these properties to evaluate. But back to this part of January 16th, just so you can know our actions now. January 16th, I drove here when I received the letter in Orlando, Florida, drove here and sat outside. I was given 2 business codes. Well, I went downstairs to apply for, there's 4 violations here. One is to rezone it or have one person there. The other one is a plumbing issue, which I mentioned already. That's works fine. And the other one is a rental license and a business tax certificate. You can't do those 2 things if you have an open code compliance issue and until you can resolve the 2 residents there. We have 2 residents there with leases.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What have you done to resolve the non-conforming
So on
use?
January 16th, when I found out what it was to resolve, there's a blue form that used to be allowed for anyone to apply for rezoning. That is no longer allowed downstairs. If you go downstairs, they don't know who you are, and you just ask them, I'd like to rezone a property to apply, because that was one of the things. At least start the rezoning process. They don't give those blue forms out anymore until you meet with Dennis at the technical review team. They meet every Tuesday at 9 a.m. So on January 16th, I emailed Miss Hannah Ward. She was going to help me fill out the paperwork. She was a very nice lady. You can listen to her voicemail. Seems very nice. No response. January 24th, I emailed Miss Ward again. She replied, can I have your phone number? I forwarded all these emails to Mark Jones, sadly just yesterday, but he has now all those emails that show that these were done not just yesterday. These were done January 16th when I received the first notice that we didn't attend this meeting. And then January 24th at 9:08, I sent the email. 10:19, she replied, and I sent it back to her. So she has my phone number. To this point, I still haven't heard from her. It's very simple to apply for rezoning. We want to apply for rezoning.
Is this in a redevelopment area? Do we know? Not in a okay.
But again, to go back to the 746 Alabama Street, one that was purchased at or around the same time that this one was done. When I purchased that, it had 2 electric meters and 1 water meter.
What's the Alabama house got to do with this?
Meaning, the statement of, well, it has 1 electric meter, 1 water meter, you would think, well, no, it's not a duplex. You can't have 2 people living there because it only has 1 meter. Well, we applied for the additional meters, and those were approved. So that was just a process of going through. So they've now since added at that Alabama Street address 2 water meters, so we now have 2 units. But that was bought at the time from the same wholesaler that sold us this one.
So could I ask you?
Yes, sir.
When did you re-rent? What was the date you re-rented this property?
I don't have it as being re-rented. I believe it's the same tenants as before. I don't have that information.
So it's the original tenants that were in there when this was issued?
I believe so.
Okay.
So
I
I believe so.
thought you
Again,
had
and I only go on the outside. We do have a real estate agent that handles the renting of the properties. But so let me say, one of the leases runs out on 5/30/2018. So again, I always come with what resolves it. 5/30/2018, the back unit, as he's calling the side unit, the back unit, that lease expires. We do not want to re-rent it unless we either have a started the rezoning, or we won't re-rent it until it's either rezoned or we just convert it back to a single-family residence. Again, that would require the hiring of a contractor because, as I mentioned, there is no way to get from the front unit to the back unit. It is walled off, done years prior to us purchasing this property.
All right, thank you very much.
So, what all of this amounts to is when you purchase a property, somebody didn't do their due diligence to find out what it was zoned. Is that correct?
I would, looking back on it now, having
That's a
purchased
simple
Walmart,
yes or
I
no.
think actually not knowing that it had to be zoned that way, because at the same time we had purchased from the same person, and there was a duplex there.
Doesn't
So
make
yeah,
sense.
so we didn't know.
But that has no relevance
Yes.
to this case.
So yes. at
So
this point now,
all right.
yes.
I think that we've heard what you think the issues are.
What's to keep you from getting the rental license, the inspection?
Well, you can't get a rental license or occupational license until you fix the main problem, which is step 1. So it's not like we ignored step 3 and 4. So at this point, we know the problem terminates on 5/30/2018. That's when I was given the information. That's when the back unit, who's always paid on time, has already been informed, we're not renewing your lease because we want to either get it rezoned, and that's why I said we have the Hannah Ward, we have Marcia,
But
and
has
we're.
filed the paper for the rezoning?
Yes. And if they're not, I'm sorry. I
Have
didn't-
you filed the paper for the rezoning?
That's what I was describing. I can't get to that point yet, but I have sent
You
proof
said you
of
can't get the
attempt.
business tax return, you can't get the occupational the business tax receipt, because you haven't gotten the rezoning.
Yes, sir. And so the paper, that was the blue form I was describing downstairs that they've taken away. They just don't want anyone walking in applying for rezoning anymore.
All right,
So
okay.
you can't just do that anymore.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions or comments, Mr. Weatherholtz?
I think it pretty much does it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what we're supposed to do here.
Well,
except
what we're
impose
supposed
the
to do,
fine.
I mean, the city has recommended that we
Impose a fine.
impose a fine.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
that seems to me.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to impose a fine of $250 per day against the respondent, effective today, and continue until compliance is achieved or reaches the maximum of $15,000. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Weatherholt, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Harrington. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Case number 17, CEB 0717-79, John B. Clark at 726 Rawlings Court.
Madam Chair, this is one we overlooked to announce as being in compliance.
It's
What's
in
the compliance
compliance?
131.
131.
Oh, good. Okay.
Great.
Case number 19, CEB 01-18-17, JL and W Property of Daytona. Mr. Hastings was here last time. Is he here this time? No? Okay. At 1116 Madison Avenue.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is John Stinson. Mr. Stinson reports that there is a pending eviction, and I don't have details.
A pending eviction?
Okay, well, I'll tend to Mr. Stinson.
Okay.
And I think he may have
Good.
a little bit more detail.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning. John Stinson, Code Inspector with the City. My qualifications are on file. The property manager was here this morning. She had another appointment. This property, the tenant is under eviction. The eviction's been filed. It should be completed before the next cutoff. Unfortunately, while this is going on, there's issues with the tenant and the landlord, so they're not going to do anything with the property until that tenant is out. So,
There is an active eviction going on.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So we're asking to be
Okay.
amended to the next.
Yep. Chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of noncompliance and allow respondent until February 28th to come into compliance or to be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day until compliance is achieved. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Harrington. Second, Mrs. House.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Okay. Case number 20. CEB 01-18-15, Eddie and Joyce Anderson. Mr. Anderson was here before. Is he here today? Okay. Not here. All right.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this property is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is John Stinson. Mr. Stinson reports that the property remains in noncompliance. He's asking for a $200 fine to be imposed to a maximum of, $200 a day fine to be imposed to a maximum of $10,000.
Do we have pictures? I may have missed them. I'm taking notes.
They're working on that.
Okay.
Just wanted to do a picture for
Okay.
Eddie.
All right. So, all right. I mean, I'm.
Yes,
Okay. Well, do you want to come speak to the issues and tell us what's been done or not done?
Yes, ma'am. My last inspection on the property was this past Monday.
Mhm.
There has been some progress. He still has the parking issues in the front yard. The fencing has not yet been repaired. Most of the outside storage has been removed. However, he still has more work to get
Okay.
to compliance.
Can I ask a question? And it's just for curiosity, and it might be addressed to Mr. Sykes. How does the city representatives, the inspectors, come up with the asking of fines? How, is there or possibly Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, that's actually provided in our ordinance as well as in state law, which we just reflect our ordinance reflects what is said in state law, which is we look at the egregiousness of the violation, the efforts of the violator, and what else? The history of the violations as well. So if it had been, what effort has been made to come into compliance, and what's the how bad is the violation?
I knew that.
But we can do an up to amount is what it is.
Right. That's
the law, correct? It says up
You don't have to go with this,
to.
you can go with less.
Yes,
That's
right.
And-
So our recommendation is, and your decision should be based on looking at those factors.
That
but-
is correct.
But you have up to the maximum amount that, to consider.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. The chair will entertain a motion to impose a fine of $200 per day against the respondent effective today, February 8th, and continue until compliance is achieved or reaches the maximum of $10,000. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Harrington. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. All right. Let's move on to our new cases. We still have a quorum. Okay. Case number 21, CEB 02-18-19, Robbie and Wendy Burke at 273 Hartford. Anybody here? Okay. Mr. Klieg and Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for determination of compliance or non-compliance. The inspector is Tom Klieg. Mr. Klieg reports that this property remains in non-compliance. This was a tenant complaint. Had, at least as of the last time that we spoke on this case, he had not received any contact from an owner. And he's asking for next cutoff for the property to come into compliance. And I would tender Mr. Klieg for any update or any additional information.
Any questions for Mr. Klieg?
I've got an update, ma'am.
Okay, go
I've
ahead.
got to talk to Attorney Jackson. Yesterday about 4:30, I got a call from Mr. Burke.
Oh.
Stated he would not be here today. He was in the process of getting a permit for the roof. He said he will put the property up for sale and wait for an email response to that. And until that requirement of the residential rental license, I'm still going to hold that open.
Yeah.
Until I get some sort of confirmation. But now he's telling me, like I said, he is going to sell the property and
whatever.
get a permit.
He still owns it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to find respondent in non-compliance or respondent come into compliance by the next cutoff date or be returned to the board for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Is there such a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Weatherholt, second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. 22 in compliance, case number 23, CEB 02-18-22, MHC Carriage Cove for Golf Cove Court. All right, no one here for that case.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for.
Are you here for a case? Okay, we'll
And
take
then
you
the-
right after this, we'll get to you. Sorry.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for determination of compliance or non-compliance. The inspector is Daniel Garcia. Mr. Garcia reports that the status of this property is that it's a mobile home. It has a damaged roof. It is still in non-compliance. The owner responded indicates that they will move the trailer and they plan to move it tomorrow.
As in move it out?
Yeah, they're gonna.
code officer Garcia, my credentials on file. I spoke to the property manager, and the property manager says they have a contract with a company that's actually moving 2 trailers.
Okay.
This one's going to be completely removed from off the
Okay.
property.
So next
And
cutoff.
So,
next cutoff. It'll be tomorrow. I'll be
okay,
gone.
yeah, okay, good. Any questions? Chair will entertain a motion to find respondent in noncompliance or the respondent commit to compliance by the next cutoff date or be returned to the board for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Weatherholtz. All in favor say aye. Like
Aye.
sign opposed. Motion carries. Case number, sir, are you case number 27,
Addendum.
right?
The addendum.
It's an addendum. Okay. Case number 27, CEB 0118-13, Carolina Club. Is this a new case?
No, it's a continued.
Okay, continue. I thought you had been here before, so I'm sorry. I could have
I
taken
missed
it
it.
before. Okay.
Kristen Burns, property manager, 100 Carolina Lake Drive, Daytona Beach, Florida.
And are you going to testify? Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. This is Mr. Stenson's case. Mr. Jackson, what can you tell us?
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for imposition of a fine. The inspector is John Stenson. Mr. Stenson reports that the property remains in noncompliance. They're at the point where they need permits for the enclosure. It's, I think, if I understand them right, they've been applied for and it's under review, so we're asking for amendment to the next cutoff. And that's all. I'll tender Mr. Stenson if you have any additional questions of him.
Was there some issue with the placement of the fence, that it was on the property, if I remember correctly?
And no, sir, this is about a dumpster enclosure.
I know, but were they placed, you know?
Originally, the enclosure's location was
In
not
question.
acceptable, but they've changed. They have since changed the location and the dumpster.
And gotten a
enclosure
permit.
style.
Okay.
And
Okay.
gotten a permit.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? So that's it. What I'm thinking that we will do is entertain a motion to give you another month. Is that
I would agree.
okay?
Okay.
Chair will entertain a motion to amend the previous order of noncompliance and allow respondent until February 28th to come into compliance and be returned to a subsequent meeting for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mrs. House. Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Weatherholtz. All in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Okay, you're welcome. And please, if you get it done, please let Mr. Stenson know so you don't have to come back. Okay. All right, now where are we? We are back at case number 24, CEB 02-18-23, Samuel Blanco. Not here.
Excuse me, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is before you for determination of compliance or noncompliance. The inspector reports that the property remains in noncompliance. He's had no contact from the respondent. Okay, and he's asking that you make a finding of noncompliance and give the respondent until next cutoff to come into compliance.
Okay.
These are two. You'll see that these are two of the same address, the two different structures on a
Okay.
parcel. So,
The next cutoff on the 24 case.
on
Yep.
the 24 case, noncompliance, next cutoff.
Okay. Where is that? 127 Fairview. Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to find respondent in noncompliance or respondent to come into compliance by the next cutoff date, February 28th, 2018, or be returned to the board for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Is there such a motion? Motion, Mr. Harrington. Second.
Second.
Oh, good. Second, Ms. Purdy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like
Aye.
sign opposed, motion carries. Okay. Next case, 20, CEB 01-18-15, Eddie and Joyce Anderson.
Yeah,
back a
there were
page?
two
Yeah.
for long.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went the wrong direction.
Number
Okay.
25.
What? I went the wrong direction.
Same
here.
address.
Hold on.
Page 7,
She's got it.
Samuel Blanco.
It's not the same as the
I
company.
mean,
I
yeah,
had
same
it.
property.
I just lost it, that's all. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Case number 25, CB 02-18-24, Samuel Blanco, 125 Fairview.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the Inspector Stan Garcia. I said it was the same address. It's the same parcel, as you see.
Right.
It has two different addresses,
Right.
but it's on the same parcel. This structure, same situation, peeling paint. It's in non-compliance, no contact from the owner. Request is for finding of non-compliance and next call to come into compliance.
Okay. Any questions? Chair will entertain a motion to find respondent in non-compliance and order the respondent to come into compliance by the next cutoff date, February 28th, 2018, or be returned to the board for consideration of a fine of up to $1,000 per day. Such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Harrington, a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. House. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries. All right, that finishes off our cases, regular cases. And I would like to make a motion to postpone the election of vice chair since
I was
we're
just
missing
going to
people.
Just going to do that until we get a full board.
Okay, Mr. Harrington made a motion to postpone the election of vice chairman till we have everybody here.
I'm going to withdraw my nomination from that.
Well, that,
You've got something against vice?
You can reinstate it next meeting.
we can do what?
Put it back next meeting.
Well, okay, so we just need to do the election next meeting anyway, thank you. So Mr. Harrington made a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. House, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Did everybody vote?
Everybody voted.
Everybody voted, all right, motion
Nothing
carries.
unanimously.
Okay. All right, so we'll elect a vice chair next
On
month.
the March 8th.
Right, at the March 8th meeting. All right, now let's get to our miscellaneous business. MB1.
This is the motion that you did. Amy, did everybody get a
This
copy of
is
this?
a motion, if you see, this is a motion to vacate.
Did everyone get a copy of the motion?
Yes, we all have a copy of the motion. It's a motion to vacate. Are you Mr. Nelson? You Mr. Nelson?
What
Mark
is it?
Nelson,
What is it?
843 Loyola Road.
Go ahead and raise your right hand.
Big
Yeah,
one.
Sir,
I,
you need to raise your right hand and be sworn first.
Sorry. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Mr. Jackson, if you sit down, sir, we're going to have Mr. Jackson and explain what's going on here to us so everybody understands.
Well, Madam Chair, it's actually, it's his motion, so he would need to
But
bring it.
the
I'd
question,
ask for.
the issue is the motion's in front of us, but I understand this has been set for a hearing next month?
Correct. We have a motion for we have
An order.
compliance set for March 8th, so,
Right, we have an order for compliance.
right.
And if it comes into compliance,
If
then
it comes into
this motion's
compliance,
a
there's
moot.
no issue.
Right. And I would agree. I don't,
If he's found in compliance, and the motion's, there is no action.
There is no action, so,
and we really don't have a mechanism for it. I mean, it's up to, of course, your council.
I think we should just add this to our next month's meeting and see what the situation is. If he's in compliance, then there's no need for a motion. Everything
Right.
goes away, it's done. If he's not in compliance, then you can see if you want to go ahead and remove it or not. But right now, we don't have compliance.
but we gave you, sir, till, to come into compliance by March 8th. And as far as we're concerned, that's when we'll hear this case again. There's no reason to hear it now.
The reason that I filed this motion is because, to begin with, no complaint should have been filed against me, and Mr. Jones shouldn't have accepted any complaint. And I wasn't in violation of any code. And I've been coming here and I've been trying to explain it.
Well, you are perfectly welcome to tell us about this at the next meeting. You may say that you don't agree with the violations, and you may bring proof that you don't have these violations. But right now, we're not going to hear this case, as I think that will be our
Why
determination.
did you call me to come here today?
Because you put asked to put it
Because
on the
you
agenda.
asked to have it on the agenda, sir. We didn't put this on the agenda.
All right.
Yeah. We're gonna come up next month, and if you feel you're in
Were
compliance.
you aware that you were supposed to come back next month to be in compliance?
This case is in the court, as long and the tenant is hostile, as long as case has not been over.
Well, we'll discuss that next month. So
I
you have
cannot-
all your proof next month.
Yeah, get everything into compliance, and it'll all
And,
go away.
or you can come into compliance.
What I am trying to say, somebody filed a fraudulent complaint against me.
I
I
understand.
have to go through all these things for no apparent reason. And I know about surveillance harassment.
Yeah, well, we'll hear
and
about
that
all
I'm
we'll
going
hear about
through.
all of it next time.
But really, I believe that you should just dismiss it now and get it
No, well,
over
we're
with.
not going to just dismiss it now. Because we set a date for compliance, giving you extra time to take care of these issues. And at our next meeting, in our March meeting, we will determine whether you're in compliance.
And if you're in compliance, it
If
all
you're
goes
in
away.
compliance,
My
it's not a problem.
compliance, there is nothing that I can comply with because there was nothing
Well,
even
I
I could
think-
comply with. And also, here we go. Now your policeman is approaching, that means I gotta
Yeah.
go. But what I am trying to say, really, you should have some consideration beyond those strict laws and regulations.
Well, we
because
we
here
are
I am-
bound to uphold those strict laws and regulations. That's we listen to both sides of the coin, so to speak. We listen to the code enforcement staff, and we'll listen to you, and then we make a determination as best we can based on the findings in the case and the law. We don't go outside that.
Anyway,
And that's all I
guess-
can tell you.
We're just
And
telling you can bring back your motion again next month,
bring back
and the court and they'll make a decision whether they'll consider it or not. They're not considering it today because they want you to be in compliance before they consider it, and it's set already for next month.
All right. All right. I guess then I don't know why I was invited to come today. Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, we will move on to MB2, miscellaneous business 2. And I think this is staff requesting a dismissal because the person actually came into compliance the exact same time as we imposed the fine. Is that correct?
That's exactly it, Madam Chair.
All right. Chair will, does anybody have any questions? Chair will entertain a motion to dismiss the case, the fine. Chair will entertain a motion to dismiss the order imposing a fine. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Harrington, second, Mrs. House. All in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.